Hello everybody, Road Warrior 627 here, and welcome back to the final video for the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival. It is the big one. I said the Belmont Stakes preview was the big one, but this is really the bigger one. This is the preview for the entire 13 race Saturday card extravaganza. We're going to take you through the 9 stakes races and the other 4 races on the card. And to me today is just me and Jack Sargent, who's joining me today. Thank you, Jack, for coming.
You're welcome. Happy to be back again. Third or fourth time. I lost count at this point.
I think you're on all 4. So that's something that's pretty impressive. Sammy was going to join. We had a little bit of confusion over what time we were going to start, so he was not ready, unfortunately. He'll be back with us very soon, I'm sure, for a future video, as he usually is. So this card is pretty good. Now, some of the fields came up a little short, and I'm going to let Jack get into that maybe once or even twice as we go throughout the card, starting in the 3rd race with the Acorn. But we're definitely going to have that discussion a little bit, and I want to hear Jack's thoughts on it. But for now, we're just going to start to go through the races. We'll get to that when we need to. The rain looks like it's largely gone. Looks like it's going to be a mid-70s cloudy day, which is just fine. It's a lot easier to see when it's cloudy, so that especially later in the day. So that should work to our advantage. Let's start with the first race, which is a dirt allowance. I wish it was a turf allowance. We're going just the normal 6 furlongs here. And this is the race on the card that I hate the most, actually, is the first one. Safalo's Mission is in here, who won last time. I totally couldn't figure out. That was the first race I saw in person at Belmont this year. I'm going to be mainly landing on 2 logical horses in here, and those 2 are the 7 and 8, Win for Gold and Unique Unions. I really don't like these horses, but I think they have the best chance to win, particularly Win for Gold. I'm just going to box them in the exacta, just try to get a little something back, and play them into the second race. Did you have anything in here, Jack? Because please give us some light on this race that I can't find.
I just went for the 6 in this race. I'm sort of value hunting, as you'll see as we go through the video. I am very, very favorite heavy. I picked damn near every favorite through all the graded stakes races on this Belmont card. So I can definitely, in some of these earlier races, hunt for some value. I'm going to try to do that with the 6. 2 career starts. The first start wasn't great. Maybe you could chalk that up to he wasn't quite ready to go in September. But he did come back and won all the way by half a length last time at Belmont, going 6.5 furlongs. This is going to be 6 furlongs. So he's shortening up just a touch. If you take that last race, he would have done just fine there at 6 furlongs. So, that's just kind of my hunt for value. The last effort was pretty decent. We'll see what we get from him in this race.
Yeah, I'm sorry, everybody. We couldn't come up with anything more creative than that, but it's just not that kind of a race for me. And if I was smart, I would skip this race and not play it at all. But I'm not smart. So definitely going to have a little bit of money going through it. Let's move on to the second race. This is the last race we're going to have that's not a stakes race for a long time. And it's a $92,000 allowance on the main track. Again, I don't know why there couldn't be another turf race in here to start the card with. I landed on some of the usual guys I play in here. The first of those being number 3, Set Sail. I hope this horse doesn't get Rosario, just like I got Rosario'd about an hour ago. We're recording this on Thursday, so I don't like Rosario riding any of my horses, but whatever. It's Bill Mott, and that maiden victory was damn near good way back at Santa Anita. I don't know why this horse... Richard Mandela. Okay, it's a change. I did not see that. And then ran in the Peter Pan last time, just way too tough competition. We the People, of course, is the morning line favorite for the Belmont. 3 Jokers is okay, but I'm going to be mainly focusing, of course, on Chad and higher quality. 9-2 is a good price. Another jockey who I don't really like, Franco, is up. This horse, off that giant layoff, I think this horse anchored a double or a pick 3 that I had back at Aqueduct. So I'm going to take this horse back again. Got the job done last time on the lead. And so we're going to try him again in here. Going to be mainly just focusing on 3 and 8. Again, this is not anything too creative to start the card with.
And I'm going to go land on number 4, Strong Quality, in this race. 3 career starts for him. Has hit the board in all 3. His first career start, he lost to Zozos, runner-up in the Louisiana Derby. So some decent back class there. Second start out at the Fairgrounds, he won going a mile and a 16th by just over a length. Back down further in that race was King Ottoman, who won the Texas Derby. So again, some pretty decent form, and they're not anything overly crazy, but a stakes winner in the past performances there. And then last time out at the Fairgrounds was once again going a mile and a 16th. Got lost to Head Bob there. So he's shortening up from a mile and a 16 to a one-turn mile here. It doesn't really look like that's going to be too much of an issue for him. And once again, I'm using these as kind of my hunt for value. I'm not going too crazy with this like I did with the first race. This horse is 6-1 on the morning line. Taking it against the Pletcher entry, and obviously Chad will see if that ends up being something that works out successfully or not successfully, but I'm going to go with Strong Quality here.
Yeah, I looked at Strong Quality, Jack. I don't know if I want to take horses coming out of Fairgrounds. That's the only reason I didn't use. And 6-1, that horse beats me. It's not as big of a sting as others. So I left the horse out. Okay, the third race. Here we go. We're going to start all these stakes races now, and it's the Acorn $500,000. And I'm going to let Jack talk a little bit about the fact that there's a 5-horse field in here, and a little bit of a bigger problem that's causing these kind of small field sizes. Jack, would you like to discuss a little bit?
Certainly. So we didn't do this to lead off the video. We're getting into it now as we get to the stakes races. But if you've been on Twitter at all this week, everybody has been complaining about the size of the fields for this Belmont Stakes card. And certainly it is very disappointing that a race card that is usually very good, and I will say, the races themselves, the horses that drew, they are very, very good horses. There are going to be some very good matchups here. But from a betting perspective, most of these races are damn near unbettable because there's short fields and heavy favorites in almost all of them. There are a couple of exceptions on this card, but a lot of people are upset about that. And, you know, there have been some people out there who have taken the stance of, well, just be happy that you're going to get to watch some good racing. And other folks have said, yeah, well, I want to enjoy good racing, but also have some bettable cards. And I will say, generally in this case, I am more along the lines of be happy that we have some marquee racing, because in every single short field, there are 2 or 3 horses that are insanely talented, that it's going to be a great matchup to watch. But I will say to people, if you want to, please be mad about this, because you should be mad that the field quality, or that the field size, not quality, the of horses in the field are down. Be mad about that, but be mad at the right people for that. And I'm not really too sure. I haven't really felt out exactly who people are mad at. I'm sure there's some people who are lashing out at the New York Racing Association. And I don't mean to do this as a PSA pro piece for the New York Racing Association, because I'm not affiliated with them or anything like that. I just think that the people who you should blame for this are the owners for horses that could have run in some of these grade 1s that did not, because they did not want to run their horses in races where they didn't think that they could win. But there's always the possibility in a race like this, what if the favorite doesn't show up? Then your chances to hit the board go up astronomically. I want to go back to the Breeders' Cup last November. The damn Breeders' Cup. There were that were dodging the Breeders' Cup. Sconson, Bell's the one. Multiple stakes winners throughout the course of their career did not run in the Breeders' Cup. Well, what happened in the Breeders' Cup? There were 2 horses that took all the money. One of them, Gamine, wasn't, shall we say, fully cranked up for the Breeders' Cup, so she ran an off race. And the other one, Bella Sophia, wasn't as good as folks thought she was. So you had horses finish in front of those 2. So once again, there should be no excuse for dodging races, because if the favorite doesn't fire, then to steal a grade 1 here. Now, who are horses that could have run in this race that are dodging? I'm going to call out connections here specifically, because I think that this is flat out unacceptable. The first people that I'm going to call out is actually Chad. Chad has a pretty good 3-year-old filly named Gerrymander. You probably remember her from her run behind Echo Zulu in the Frizette. She placed in that Frizette Stakes, beaten a ton of lengths, but Grade 1 placed horse. She also won the Tempted Stakes. Interestingly enough, in that Tempted, she beat Nest, who won the Belmont Stakes. So Gerrymander, really a good horse. First time back off a pretty big layoff at Churchill in the 8 Bells. She didn't run bad, given that she was coming off a layoff here. No excuse why she's not here. The other horse that should be here is Pretty Birdie, who is a multiple stakes winner. She won a stakes race at Oaklawn. She was also a graded stakes winner. I think it was the Schuylerville at Saratoga that she won when she was a 2-year-old. And she ran second behind NYRA in that aforementioned 8 Bell Stakes. But in addition to blaming her owners for dodging this race, you should also be upset at Churchill Downs for carting a 7-furlong sprint stake for 3-year-old fillies, the Leslie's Lady Overnight Stakes. First year that they're running this race, by the way, and they ran it the Sunday after the Acorn. Gee, I wonder why that race was carded. So yes, be upset that the field sizes are down this year, but be upset at the right people. The connections of horses who in this race. Pretty Birdie should be in this race. Gerrymander should be in this race. There's a couple other horses that I'm not going to, dig too deep in. I mean, Wicked Halo is a graded stakes winner. She didn't run bad in that 8 Bells either. She's not here. Take a look at the connections as to why she's not here. Windshill, Steve Asmussen, makes sense why. They don't want to run her against their star filly. So another horse. So you could say potentially 3 horses that belong in this race. And these are not filler horses that would be big long shots here. These are horses that are graded stakes proven, that deserve to be in a race like this and should be, but are not because their connections are taking the easy way out. And it's a growing problem in horse racing. Owners play hot potato with each other and, let's make sure everybody gets their graded stakes races, their grade 1 and their stud deal, and it's great for everybody. So that is a huge problem in horse racing, and I don't know how we fix it. And I'm a big person who complains about problems, but I always like to offer solutions. Unfortunately, in this case, I don't really know what the solution to this is other than culling graded stakes races, which is not going to happen because look at who runs the graded stakes committee, the breeders, and the more graded stakes winners, the better it is for the breeders. So again, I laid out what the problem is and I laid out who you should be mad at. I'm sorry that I don't really have a solution to offer you. If anybody, has solutions, I'm sure Andrew would be happy if you drop them down in his comment section. But that's just my 2 cents on this. Be upset, but be upset at the connections of horses that did not run in this race, that had horses that were grade 1 level. Again, these are not horses that would just be filler 20 plus to 1 long shots.
I believe that's a great point by Jack, and I would love to hear any solutions anybody has. But I definitely think that horses should be running and not scared. Like, even for instance, I'll take a little aside here. I didn't like Creative Minister in the Belmont because I think he's got too much to do too soon as he's developing. But I absolutely do think it's the right decision to test him in the Belmont after running so well in the Preakness. So while I'm not going to be betting on him, I definitely see that he should be doing what he's doing. And I love to see when owners take shots and stuff, whether that be fillies running against the boys like Nest, or stepping up in class with a horse that beats up on the lower classes. Anything like that is always a good thing to me. So we'll now talk about the third race properly, which is the Acorn. And this is one of 2 races today where I'm not taking a shot. I think that Echo Zulu wins this race. I thought the Oaks was good, and I think the 1-turn mile is perfect. She drew a perfect outside post, not going to have trouble except for maybe a little bit of ground loss. But if she's who she is, that shouldn't matter. I really wanted to come up with something. Motion's horse, I could use $1 win in place just in case Motion somehow pulls this off, but I don't think it can happen. I think this is Echo Zulu's race to lose. I don't like the other horse either, Matarea. I think she's a little bit overhyped. Both of those wins came at extremely short prices. I thought Echo Zulu's Oaks was more impressive than those 2 races that Matarea ran.
Yeah, this should be a procession for Echo Zulu. She's getting back to a distance where she crushed a 1-turn mile in the Frizette at Belmont. She's always, even though she is by Gun Runner and she did win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, she's always been a horse that this was going to be the target for her. The Oaks was always going to be too far for her. She should win this race, and like I said, it should be a procession. There's nothing, again, like Andrew said, maybe you play a dollar win in place on Motion's horse in this race, but outside of that, you're not really going to find a whole ton of value in here.
Okay, so let's move on to the fourth race, and here we go. It is just, it's ridiculous. This is a $500,000 grade one, and I'm not even talking about the field size. I'm talking about the 3/5 of the field are owned by Peter Brandt and trained by Chad Brown. Now, this is a situation where you might think, I'm going with the longest Chad. And normally, you would be right. The problem is that this horse, Speak of the Devil, dusted the longest Chad Brown horse in Italian last time. And I doubt they're going to try and pull that thing off again. This horse came from well behind. In Italian had everything her own way. The only way you could say is if the Churchill Downs turf course was catering to horses making the kind of move that Speak of the Devil made. And that the front runners on the turf were not helped. You could say that Tribovan, see it with Tribovan, you could see it in some of the other races. The race that Stolen Base won, the front runners didn't really do too good. So that's the only scenario where I see Speak of the Devil losing, is if that race that she ran last time was helped by the racetrack. This horse should freaking just win. I'd love to try Wakanaka, but Wakanaka lost to In Italian, and then lost to In Italian and Speak of the Devil. This horse lost to Regal Glory in a non-effort. This horse should win. This three horse should absolutely win the race.
Yeah, Speak of the Devil is very good. That win in the Distaff Turf Mile came off a break and got the perfect setup in there. Andrew's point is well made, that the only argument you could make for an Italian is, well, the Churchill Downs turf course wasn't playing to speed. But even if that is the case, I don't really see a reason why I don't really see a reason why Speak of the Devil still wouldn't have won that race. I think the world of Regal Glory. I said after she won the Jenny Wiley, and this was before I knew that Speak of the Devil was as good as she was. I said that Regal Glory was going to have a Russian Fall type campaign this year. Maybe she could still win a couple more grade ones this year, but it's going to take a lot for her to beat her very talented stablemate. Peter Brandt paid $2.2 million for Speak of the Devil for a reason, and so far it looks like that money was well spent.
Yep, so not much to talk about in there unless Chad Brown pulls this thing, which in this scenario I don't see happening. Now we're going to talk about a freaking scenario, because we're going to talk about the Brooklyn, and we're going to talk about this horse, Lone Rock. Lone Rock should win this race without any shadow of doubt. Okay? Now, I'm going to take a shot against him with another horse. Okay? And it's not the horse that is related to this horse. But we must talk about the horse that is related to this horse. Because back on September 18th, this race that I'm highlighting right here on the computer, we have what happened, the greatest sham of last year. And don't factor Jack in with everything I say, because this is just my total opinion here. I think this was the biggest scam of last year. Lone Rock was 1-9 in this race. In fact, he was 1-10. Okay? He went out there to the lead, dropped back, let locally owned, who was also owned by Flying P Stable and was in the high teens. Let's see, what price was he in that race?
18
he was 18.5 to 1. Let this horse come up the gold rail, and he held off Lone Rock. Owned by the same stable, Flying P Stable. It was a stakes race, so it was uncoupled. And also, Ramon Vasquez, who rode Lone Rock, went after the race, got off of Lone Rock, and shook hands with Tom Morley, the trainer of Locally Owned, right on the racetrack in front of everybody who was there. Look, you might think that some of my theories are a little out there about conspiring in races. To me, there was no doubt about what happened last year. And I will absolutely be boxing this exacta and playing one measly dollar to win on locally owned. Because I don't think locally owned can win this race. And I don't think they try this again. But every chance that I have to talk about that race back on September 18th, I have to do it. Lone Rock should win. I'm taking a little bit of a shot against him with one of the three horses that Todd Pletcher has in here. And I know it's very tough to figure out which Pletcher is going to win. I like First Constitution because he's got the race over the track at Belmont. And he hasn't been bad at Belmont his whole career. I think Liscano's going to do the right thing and send this horse. The Brooklyn has been won in wire-to-wire fashion in recent years a couple of times. I don't think this is a bad idea. In fact, the horse who did it last time was a horse that Todd Pletcher trained. So I'm definitely going to be on First Constitution. Also, the Chilean breds love the distance. So I definitely love that. Look, you got Constitution, who's Tappet. Kitten's Joy is the dam sire, which I find a little bit funny. But I'm not worried about this horse. The only thing you could say about last time is, did the sloppy track help him? Probably yes. But I think the horse won pretty easy. And you're getting a price this time. The horse was even money last time. You get an upgrade here, and you got to be scared of the other Pletchers. You got to be scared maybe of Max Player if he finds his old form that he had last summer, definitely. But other than that, I wasn't in love with this race. Of course, got to be scared of locally owned if they pull their thing. Pletcher's got Fearless, who I don't like as much and will be a shorter price. And that's really it. It's not that big of a field. So, Jack, where did you wind up going in this mile and a half Brooklyn handicap?
With you on Lone Rock, he should absolutely win this race, but he has proven times that he can be beat. So he's not a sure thing. I think of all the favorites, I think he's the most likely to lose of all the horses that could potentially be. And I don't know how much money he's going to take, but of all the horses that will be relatively heavy favorites on this card, I think that he's the most likely to get beat. And I will say, Max Player's got to find his old form, but Max Player's always been a horse that looked like he would really relish a mile and a half. The two wins he had last year were going a mile and a quarter. I think at the right price in here, which he's going to float because he is not in good form as of late, I think a mile and a half is very good for him. He was coming off the layoff in the Ali Shiva. That was too short for him. I wanted to pick him in here. Do it because Lone Rock is just really good at these marathon distances. He hasn't lost in a fortnight, not since the Temperance Hill Stakes at Oaklawn back in March of 2021. He has not lost, or I shouldn't say hasn't lost that, because we did have the very fun thing that happened on September 18th. But outside of that race, he hasn't lost since then, and he is obviously very good at these kind of distances. But Max Player, I think, is if you don't want to play Lone Rock in here because you're looking for a race to not take a favorite in, I decided that I wasn't going to go price hunting in the stakes races because I get beat a lot of times doing that, and I've been getting beat a lot of times doing that in recent proximity. But if you absolutely must do that because you're taking too many favorites and you can't do it, it just doesn't work for you to take that many favorites. Max Player at a pretty decent price in here. 2 wins at a mile and a quarter. One of those is over the surface at Belmont. I think that this horse could have won a mile and a half Belmont Stakes. If we had had a real Belmont Stakes in 2020, he would have been a really, really good horse for that. He's always relished distance. I think he'll see out a mile and a half really well. I will play the Lone Rock Max Player exacta, though, in this race.
Yep. Okay. So we are going to move on to the 6th, which is just another. It's kind of boring. I think Jack Christopher probably wins. I'm going to take a small shot against him. Now, last time I tried to take a small shot against him with Papa Cap, who I know the pace was a little fast, but he had every chance. Especially for, I mean, this horse just easily, as you can see there, no match held place. I'm going to take a little bit of a shot with Wit, because Wit's closing kick is very good, as you might remember from his maiden race, from the Sanford, and from the Bayshore. In the Bayshore, he ran down highly respected who I made my second largest ever win bet on, was sitting right on the wire and just got nipped by a nose. It was one of the worst beats ever. Just totally horrible. Franco made an extremely aggressive move at the 5/16 pole that was unreal, and highly respected as a grinding sprinter. All right, I need to get that off my chest. The point is, Witt is a good closer, and I think that if Jack Christopher gets pressured, which I think he could in this race by several horses, Papa Cap, Morello, that it could set up for Witt. This is a small shot. You have to think about Pletcher having this other horse, Provocateur, who's not bad. I just don't know if he's got the same class level as the other ones in here. This is a small shot. There will not be a lot of money going through this race, and Jack Christopher will be used if I do any multi-race bets. But 1 to 2 is just a little too hard to swallow. Also, Chad Brown, he wasn't really targeting this race. I know later in the year he's more looking forward to stretching this horse out, but he decided to run this horse in this race more so because it's at his home track, it's at his own barn, and it's a lot of money, and it's grade 1. I think this horse is more primed to go after distance races later. But if he freaks in here, maybe he shouldn't.
Yeah, I'm really not crazy about the eventual plan to stretch him out. I mean, I think you could do what you did with him, or Chad could do what he did with Practical Joke in 2017. Try him in the Haskell, and then when that if and when that doesn't work out, go back in plenty of time to win the Allen Jerkins. But I think that most of the Grade 1 races at Belmont are very interesting matchups. This one was not. I am looking forward to this one the least of all of them. I think that this will be another procession for Jack Christopher. Another race where there could have been horses to run in. The Woody Stevens throughout throughout the course of its history has blown up in the past. And once again, I understand owners of some of these horses that would be deep long shot closers not running here if the horses with speed don't show up. But again, Jack Christopher, maybe he's freaky, but the Woody Stevens blown up certainly in the past. Hawk Creek Hustle won this race in 2019, so it can be won by any horse in here. So there's no excuse for some of the horses from the Pat Day Mile to not be here. A couple of the horses that ran at Pimlico could have come back here. Plenty of horses that could have run in this race. No excuse, once again, that this is a 6-horse field. But again, it's just a matter of nobody wants to run against Jack Christopher because nobody thinks they can beat him. However, as I mentioned, there are plenty of times where you've said, "Oh, horse," and that horse loses. But I'm going to stop with this tangent because I need to not beat it into the ground on this video.
I agree with everything you said, Jack. All right, here we go. Race number 7. It is the Phipps, and people are going to say that this is a match race, and most likely it will be in a race that, let's be honest here, New York riders are some of the most unaggressive riders ever, and they might just let Latruska walk. Malathot is in here and is so classy. I know the figure last time it was low. She didn't have to do much in that race. She never does too much. She just does enough to win or run well. Clairiere could be scary. I'm on search results. I think you're finally getting a good price on search results. And I need to talk about the Distaff Handicap at Aqueduct. This horse was 3 to 5 in that race. And I just had a bad feeling in my head about this race. And Glass Ceiling is no bum and is going to be running in the race on Friday, the 4-horse race on Friday, where I think she's a major contender. But I think that Search Results was absolutely not ready for the Distaff Handicap. I don't think Chad had her ready at all. I think that was a workout, and I think that everybody who singled that horse got screwed. You could see in the Ruffian, Search Results beat Royal Flag. And search results wound up being almost 4 to 1. Royal Flag was well under 2 to 1. I don't remember the exact price, but I know that Royal Flag was significantly shorter. Chad got to pull his excellent long way exacta thing, as I always play. Now, I think search results second off the good effort. I'm really excited to play search results on Saturday. Now, I think personally that this race will have a pace. I think that Latruska is going to go out there, and I think that Velasquez is going to pressure Latruska because I think Velasquez knows that that's his only chance to win is to be close to her, and that's the shot I'm taking to have search results coming at the end. I know it sounds very stupid. We know what happened in this race last year in a 5-horse field. This is a 6-horse field. Uh, I will not have that much money doing this, but I will definitely have a strong opinion against Latruska. And I underrated Latruska for a long time until I saw her win the Personal Ensign. To me, the Personal Ensign was by far the best race she ever ran because she took pressure and she still held on. Uh, all the other races were too comfortable. The Breeders' Cup, I'm willing to forgive that. She did so much throughout the year that didn't even matter to me. I couldn't care less what happened in there. But I need to take a shot against her in here. Sorry.
Yeah, so Andrew's actually kind of making me rethink my whole strategy for this race. So, if you're a listener to Racing Rundown, you know how I feel about Malathot. If you listen to this week's episode of Racing Rundown, though, you know that I have abandoned the girl that I have been with ever since she won the Demoiselle. I am extremely unloyal to horses that I'm not like Andrew. I won't pick. I won't pick Malathot, or I'm not the type of person just to steal something that Andrew would do. I'm not the kind of person to pick a horse that's lost 5 straight Grade 1s just because he's my favorite horse. Malathot is still my favorite horse in training, but I'm a very disloyal SOB in this race because I'm on Latruska, and it's because I think that she is going to get handed the race. But Andrew is absolutely right. Malathot's only chance in this race is to pressure Latruska because every single race that Latruska won last year was gift wrapped to her like it was Christmas morning. And I actually disagree with Andrew on the Personal Ensign point. You know, she did take heat, but it wasn't that much heat, all things considered. I guess you could say that it was her best race of the year, considering that she didn't take pressure in any other race that she ran in, aside from the distaff, which we know how well she ran there. Every other race was completely gift wrapped to her. I think she's the most overrated horse in the country, more overrated than Life is Good. And I have a whole 25-minute video on Racing Rundown that is the de facto Life is Good is overrated video. But that's a completely different topic here. It's basically, I'm afraid that what happened in the Phipps last year is going to happen once again in this race, that they're just going to hand it to Latruska. She'll be in front by a couple of lengths, and she'll win this race. She won't be that impressive, maybe a length and a half, 2-length victory. But what's going to happen if she wins this race is speed figure this, Breeders' Cup pace meltdown that. She's going to be crowned the distaff winner in June, and it's going to be a race that is going to be completely unusable in terms of evaluating her talent, unless for some reason she gets pressed 22 and change in this race and still wins. But I don't think that that's going to happen because I don't think anybody has the speed to do that. I just think I can't see a situation where Latruska doesn't carry this race alone on the front end to win it here. However, I am going to make a point in Malathot's favor. Malathot has won several races in her career where she should not have won them. The first one was the Demoiselle back when she was a 2-year-old. She was swimming in that race. She had every reason to finish second or third there. She rallied. She got the job done. And we said it on Racing Rundown that she was going to win the Oaks as soon on our recap episode of the Demoiselle after she won that race. The other one was the Ashland off a big layoff, dealing with the short stretch at Keeneland, going a mile and a 16th, having to run down past the Champagne, who had such an easy lead coming into the stretch there. She only got the job done by a head there. But Malathot has won races before where she's been up against it. The other point in her favor, her worst career race, was that stupid coaching club American Oaks last year. She found herself on the lead in that race. Malathot is a very weird horse mentally. She wants a target. And that's the one positive thing for her in this race. She will have a target. It will be Latruska. And if it puts her a length to a length and a half off of Latruska, because Latruska is not going to be in a hurry to go fast, and I don't think there's going to be anyone else that's going to be in too much of a hurry to go with her here. So if Malathaat's within a length to a length and a half of Latruska, that's going to be something that will be beneficial for her, and she'll be in a position to run by Latruska. And Malathaat has shown some level of speed in past races of her career. She's been able to win going wire to wire before. She won the Tempted Stakes by almost 8 lengths back when she was a 2-year-old. So it's not like Malathaat is an absolute dead closer like some folks think she is. Malathaat is versatile, Malathaat is adaptable, and Malathaat is able to overcome adversity. However, I am doubtful that she'll be able to overcome this much adversity, because once again, I don't have enough trust that she'll be able to be close enough to Latruska, and that Latruska is not going to get the race handed to her. But I laid out the case for you if Malathaat's going to win this race, and Andrew did too. That's how she's going to win it.
Okay, fair enough. Not much else to say in this race, I believe. All right, the 8th race. This is the Jaipur Invitational, and this is a race where I have an extremely strong opinion. And that opinion, of course, is number 4, Casa Creed. Now, Casa Creed, of course, won this race last year in extremely impressive fashion. And that was the race that made my father $470 by having the exacta and the triple. Now, there's no other mod horse in this race. I thought that Chewing Gum would come back in here. He did not, so Casa Creed will be the only chance. This horse's last 2 races overseas were really, really good. And I know he didn't win either of them. He should have won the one in February, and he was closing like a monster in the one in March. I think that this horse is ready to freaking roll, and I think he will be coming like a freight train down the stretch here at Belmont in the Jaipur. Who's he going to have to catch? That's Arrest Me Red, number 5. What else can you say about this horse? This horse shows up all the time. Look at this streak that he's put together. It's fantastic. It's really awesome. When he didn't get to be on the lead last time, didn't bother him. Still got there. Showed tenacity in the stretch. The other horse I'm going to use besides those 2 is number 8, Scuttlebuzz, for one simple reason. I think this horse will be coming along with Casa Creed, and also, the elusive quality has been a race that has produced so many Jaipur winners, it's unreal. This is the most valuable prep race that I've seen for just about any big race out there. Casa Creed won this race last year going into here. And Scuttlebuzz, this horse beat me out of a lot of money by winning this race. So I have to include him this time and hope that he doesn't screw me again. This horse was not a fluke this race. It was extremely impressive. He was beating real horses like the Rapist. I pronounced that correctly, don't worry. That's what we call him over here, at least me. And other Clement horse, I'm forgetting his name. So he was not beating a bunch of bums. This is a legit horse. I think they're the 3 favorites that I'm boxing, so I'm going to have to play this heavier. The exacta, I probably have to have at least 3 or 4 times, and the triple, I'm going to have at least twice. Another horse that I could possibly throw in a little bit is the 3 True Valor for Graham Motion, who had a horse, I forget his name, run extremely well in the Jaipur 2 years ago during COVID. Just came up short against that female California horse. I'm forgetting her name too. Alexandra. Yeah. His horse just came up short against Alexandra. I think was 16-1. Graham Motion, he is a wizard at upsetting these big turf races. Generally the ones that are a little longer than this. But if there's going to be a horse to run a little bit closer to Arrest Me Red and not have to come from so far behind like Casa Creed and Scuttlebuzz, I think this could be the horse to do that and saving ground while doing so. Went to the lead last time off the giant layoff. I don't think that's going to be necessary. I think this horse can sit further back and get a good trip with a jockey who I believe is here to ride one horse, and that's this one. So those are the main players, but the main play above all is boxing the 4 and the 5 in the exacta. Heavy.
I did also like the 3, but I like the 3 for a different reason because there's not an overabundance of speed in this race, and I was kind of wondering if I should pick True Valor on the off chance that he gets to be lone speed in here and Grand Motion pulls off another huge upset or not relatively big upset in this kind of race. I don't know how the market's going to shake out here, but you get the idea. On the off chance that Motion pulls off another one of these grade 1 upsets on Belmont Day and in these Belmont carts. And for reference, the horse that Andrew was talking about that ran a neck to Alexander was named Kanthaka. So just to put that out there. The horse that I went with here, though, I value hunting, and I'm probably going to regret going value hunting, but I had to go value hunting because every other race on this card I'm picking favorites or short price horses. So I am going to Chasing Artie, the number 11 horse in this race. He's coming out of an awful run in the Twin Spires Turf Sprint, courtesy of an awful start that he had in the race. He broke last, and he was never really able to get into the race. They're going 5.5 furlongs, so the start basically took him out there. He did close pretty decently toward the end of that race. He was never going to beat Arrest Me Red, which is certainly the big issue with him going into this race. Is he's going to have to step up to the class level of an Arrest Me Red, Casa Creed obviously as well. But I think that he has the potential to do it. Before that, he was on a pretty good stretch, a couple of wins, including a stakes win, and the allowance win at Gulfstream was. So he had some good form going into that Twin Spires Turf Sprint at Churchill Downs. I think getting the extra half furlong going 6 here is certainly going to do him some favors in here. So I like him. I should mention about Casa Creed. I really wanted to see this horse potentially try something overseas, which it's very unusual for to think an American horse would improve better, but improve overseas. But Casa Creed is a horse who looks like he's begging for a straight mile, and that unfortunately is not something that he's going to get the opportunity to do in the United States. But this is the next best thing for Casa Creed. He cannot do 5 furlong turf sprints, 5.5 furlong turf sprints. He needs at least 6. When he won the Elusive Quality going 7 last time, I think 7 furlongs is his best distance. Once again, unfortunately, we don't have too many turf sprints at these level of distances. So this has got to be the race for Casa Creed to do that. Also, if you follow me on Twitter last year, you will know I put out a tweet before the Jaipur saying Casa Creed is the value in this race, and Casa Creed was my 1A horse that I did not pick in the Jaipur last year, and I cost myself out of a 10-1 winner in there. So that was certainly Jaipur brings me some very painful memories last year. But have to respect the talent of Casa Creed. Arrest Me Red's in really good form, but I need to make some kind of money here. I got to take a shot with the 11 Chasing Artie.
Okay, well, this is a chance, everybody, to make money on a card that might be very tough to make money, at least for the stakes races. We're going to talk about the 12th and the 13th later, which I think we have a few more options in there. All right, here it is. This is the race that features the 2 best horses on the entire card. Forget about the Belmont Stakes. And they are numbers 1 and 2 in the Metropolitan Handicap, and that is Flightline and Speaker's Corner. Flightline, if you know me, you know I don't like this horse. And I don't like him, I don't not like him because of his talent. I don't like him because he doesn't run. I want to see horses like this that have talent run more. Not these little sparks of magic pixie dust that show up and then they're gone. This horse has not run for almost half a year. And someone this talented, they haven't tried to get him out to a mile yet or do anything. I know this was the major goal and they didn't do anything with it along the way. So, out of principle, I can't pick this horse at 3-5. I am going to pick a horse at 8-5, and that horse is Speaker's Corner, because I think he's going to sit right off Flightline, and if Flightline doesn't have what he normally has, he can come and run this horse down. I think Speaker's Corner is right behind Flightline in terms of talent, and with the 2 prices that you got, this is the one I got to take. That move in the Carter was freaking insane. He sat back for a second and then said, I'm Speaker's Corner. Then he just went out there and demolished that field. And he was beating good horses and doing it in reinvestment risk and mind control. They're not bad. The horse in here I have no interest in is Aloha West. I know people have brought him up. Oh, he's a Breeders' Cup winner. That Breeders' Cup sprint sucked. It was a terrible, terrible race. As soon as Jackie's Warrior didn't show up, everybody else in there, not too good. Following Sea ran his usual good race. Dr. Shivel was a good horse last year. But as soon as Jackie's Warrior didn't show up, that race was horrible. I don't want any part of Aloha West. He beats me all the way. The other horse I will give a shot to is Happy Saver. Because I think Happy Saver is everything you can ask for in a racehorse. He is so consistent. He shows up every time. I had him first time out Belmont Stakes Day during COVID 2 years ago when he was 4-1. And until the Clark last fall at Churchill Downs, that was the longest price he had ever been. And now you're finally going to get the second longest price he's ever been. And I think 8-1 is real value if Flightline and Speaker's Corner kill each other. Outside of the 1, 2, and 4, that's it, right? Is there a 6 in here?
No, there's just 5.
No. Yeah, no, I don't think the other two can, in any world, win this race. It's probably going to be Flightline doing the Latruska thing that I said will probably happen, even though I picked against both of them. But I have to take a shot because I am not a fan of Flightline. Just like Nathan, Sketchy the Horse Guy, who you guys might know, who's been on here in the past, made an entire video of why he doesn't like Flightline. I'm in the everything he says I agree with. So I'll be going Speaker's Corner with just a tiny bit of Happy Saver. Will I possibly use Flightline in pick threes? Maybe. But Speaker's Corner is my guy.
This will be a procession for Flightline, but I do just have to say one thing. I have been very, very upset with how underrated Speaker's Corner has, or how Speaker's Corner has been being underrated all year. This race has been billed as Speaker's Corner is an honest horse, but Flightline is just that much better. No, Speaker's Corner is a freak. Flightline is maybe the best speed front-running horse we've seen in 2 decades. But Andrew, I want to say thank you for giving Speaker's Corner the level of respect that he deserves. There literally have been 2 people that I have seen all week that have given Speaker's Corner the respect that he deserves, you and Eric, and that is it. Everybody else has been saying he's good, but Flightline is that much better. Flightline is better than him, but Flightline is only going to be maybe 5 lengths better than Speaker's Corner. At most, 5 lengths at most better than Speaker's Corner. I think Speaker's Corner is going to run a lot closer to Flightline than everybody else does. And I want to say thank you for giving him the respect that he very much rightly deserves. And I agree with you. He's the second best horse on this card. I think he's the best horse in America going a mile. You can have Life is Good. And yes, I am saying that. You can have Life is Good. Speaker's Corner is better.
Yeah, well, after this race, there's a good possibility that I'm wrong and Flightline will be the best horse in the country going a mile. But up until now, yes, absolutely.
Well, I should further specify. I think Flightline is going to be running in the Breeders' Cup Classic. If Flightline is in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, then he is. But if we're in a world where he's in the Classic and the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile is Speaker's Corner versus Life is Good, I'll take Speaker's Corner every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Right. The one thing about Speaker's Corner, I do prefer him at 1 turn like this, and the Breeders' Cup Mile, of course, this year, the Dirt Mile will be 2 turns at Keeneland. So I don't like that as much, but that's okay. I think he could still win. That's a long way away anyway, and I hate the Breeders' Cup, so why am I even talking about it? Race number 10 is my favorite turf race every single year. It is the Manhattan Handicap. This is a freaking war. There is no standout in this race at all. I think that 7 out of 10 horses will be on my tickets, and I think almost all of them can win. So, of course, all 4 Chads will be played by me in some way. I am very scared because this is New York. And what happens if L'Imperador and Trivavan just walk? Chad will have a very, very nice exacta right there. Now, we have to talk about both horses. I'm going to talk about Tribovan first. He got what seemed like an easy lead in the race at Churchill Downs. And on paper, it was. The problem is that turf course, I think, was a little funky, and I don't think being on the lead is where you want it to be. So I will give Tribovan another chance because of that. And L'Imperador is kind of like this year's Tribovan, because L'Imperador won the Fort Marcy in the same exact way, at the same exact odds, with the same exact connections, jockey and trainer, as Tribovan did last year, and paid me a boatload of money. That was awesome to see the longest of the three Chads win again. So I have to use both of them. Do I think they have a great chance to win if this race shakes out the way it's supposed to? No. But when do these races work out the way that they're supposed to? And if everybody's so passive, then that's what might happen. There's other stalkers, we'll get to them too. I'm going to talk a lot about this race. You know what? I'm doing something a little on the fly here. Jack, you want to quickly touch on every horse? You want to give us a chance to talk about every horse? I already talked about L'Imperador and Tribovan, so I'll skip those for now. But would that be an idea that works for you?
Sure. I want to get into the third Chad Brown horse of the four, and that's Rock Emperor. And I would like to point out something interesting to the listeners, and do with this information what you will. Rock Emperor has won two. I tell this story every time Rock Emperor comes up. He has won two races in the U.S. These races were at Belmont Park when I was in attendance at Belmont Park on those days. One was an allowance on Mother Goose Day. The other was the Turf Classic when he and Serve the King completed a Chad Brown exacta that I believe you had, Andrew, and paid very handsomely for you there. So I will be at Belmont Park this Saturday. So if this is something that's actually a thing, Emperor may be a horse you might just want to throw $1 on because he's going to float. He might be a horse that you want to play some money on in here, just on that off chance that he shows up. Getting to I'll something about Channelmaker. I'm sure you want to talk about Channelmaker too. I really wanted to pick him in this race, but I don't know how the going to shake out in here. Channelmaker could end up there and end up there with just L'Imperador, or he could end up there with both Chads, or he could end up there himself, up front himself, which I think is the least likely of the three options, because all Eric Cancel has to do is just do what he did last year with Tribovan in this race. But we'll see how that ends up playing out. I actually don't like the other Chad, or the fourth Chad that we have talked about here, Adamo. I was never really a big fan of him going into the race at the fairgrounds, and then I know he had some excuses in the Turf Classic, but I just like other horses better than him. I'll get into the horse that I like the most in here, though, and that is Highland Sheep for Grand Motion. He is the winner, the upset winner of the Man-O-War Stakes, and he had one start, which was an allowance race at Aqueduct, that did not go well for him. That was a complete toss-out race, especially given that it was his first time in the U.S. off of a 10-month layoff. But before his time in the U.S., this horse had been running in group stakes over in Europe. He was never, Group 1 place behind some warrior horse, but a couple times he was group stakes placed. He was fifth in the Grand Prix de Paris at Paris-Longchamp in September of 2020. That winner of that race was Mogul, who, if you remember, has been in some major Group 1 races throughout the world. But I really liked the effort that Highland Sheep turned in the Man-O-War. And Eric made a point about him on Racing Rundown that, he potentially looks like a horse who's similar to Main Sequence. Main Sequence in his first race in 2014 was a bit of a price in, I think it was the United Nations, whatever his first race in that stretch was. Less of a price than Highland Sheep was, because Highland Sheep was almost 20-1 and Main Sequence was single digits. But same idea. These horses were not hyped coming out of Europe, and Motion got them into a Grade 1, and he got them to win that Grade 1, and they turned that into a nice streak of races. Now, am I saying that Highland Sheep's going to win the Breeders' Cup? Not saying that at this point yet. But the Man-O-War was certainly a very encouraging race, first time in the U.S. I think second time in the U.S., first time stakes company in the U.S. I think that he has a very good chance to replicate that, and you're going to get a pretty decent price on here or on him in here because Chad's going to take money in some ways. Gufo's going to take money, and then also Santine's going to take money. So right there, those are three horses at least that will definitely take more money than Highland Chief will. And I feel like some people might look at that and say, your beard didn't break and Gufo didn't. Gufo just did Gufo, so he might get a little bit overlooked there. I think that he's got a really good shot to win this race. This more so than Chasing Hardy was my big play of the weekend. And, you know, I'll toss it back to Andrew, but I will certainly be playing all across the board in this race because this is my favorite race on the card.
Yeah, absolutely. This is my favorite race on the card, too. It's not the most consequential, I would say. I would say the last two races will probably be, because I'll probably be down a lot into the last two and need to play the last two big. But as far as excitement level, yeah, this is it. As far as a pick is concerned, you know I have to pick Channel Maker just because he's my horse crush. Channel Maker last time did rate for the first time in a while and was successfully rated for the first time in a while. And maybe that's even a wrong statement because he rated in the Breeders' Cup and ran his eyeballs out. He beat all the American horses in the Breeders' Cup and finished 4 3/4 lengths behind Yabir and Broome. And that was when Yabir did not have a bad start and came with his usual awesome kick on a firm turf course. Channel Maker, I love this horse. I think that in this race he is not going to find himself on the lead. I think he's going to find himself just slightly off the other two. He's going to lose a little bit of ground. If I had a brain, I would pick Highland Chief because I think Highland Chief will be a little bit further behind and get a better, because I think the pace will be a little contested in here, if you want my true philosophy of what's going to happen. So I'd rather be in a place that Highland Chief is going to be than Channel Maker. I think Channel Maker will be closer, and he will be probably 3 wide around both turns behind those two Chads that'll be out for the lead. But he also might get first run, and at 8-1, I can't turn this guy down. I bet against him or picked against him once in the last God knows how long, and that's when I picked Yabir in the Breeders' Cup. I can't pick against him again. One horse I will be against is Santine, who I think last time was the time to have that horse. You got 7-1, you got a good setup, he was in the right part of the racetrack, all that stuff. Highland Chief is going to be my second choice for everything that you just heard. I think that he did get a good trip in the Man of War, but I want to talk about the last 70 yards of that race. It looked like Gufo was coming to him, and he actually repelled him again. He actually repelled Gufo. Gufo got within a half length of him, and he actually pulled away to a full length again at the end. I think that's very worth noting in there. And I don't think that was a fluke. I think he's really, really good. And, of course, Graham Motion is really, really good. I talked about the 1 and the 7 already. The Chad that I hate the most is Adamo. Just like you said, Jack, I thought this horse should have ran better last time and just got dusted by Santine and NYRA Mission. And he came from behind, like most turf winners did on that card at Churchill Downs. Now, Santine was closer, but he was also in the right part of the racetrack. Rock Emperor, I don't know what to say about him. He's Rock Emperor. He's really freaking weird. And I don't think he should run well in this race, but it's Chad, and you saw what he did in the Turf Classic, and you know the horses he beat in that race. So, here's my plan. It's a very weird plan. My main pick 3 between 9, 10, and 11 is going to be single Speaker's Corner. Use 7 horses in here. Everybody except the 3, the 5, and the 9. And then single Mo Donegal. So that's only a $7 bet for a pick 3. So I'm really spreading in here because I'm not confident in pretty much anything. And then singling in those other 2. Now, I will also be playing those 7 horses in other ways. My handle for this race will probably be in the $50 range, which is a lot more than I usually bet on any particular race. However, if you want my main horses that I will be using, it's the 10 Channel Maker, the 8 Highland Chief, and the 2 Gufo, who I didn't even really talk about. But I think Gufo is just going to come and he might get Rosario'd and be too far behind. Uh, he's 3-1. I can't pick this horse in the first 2 slots. So in essence, what I'm saying is play. I'm playing Mott, Motion, and Clement, and I'm using Chad defensively. That's my strategy in here. And I know it sounds really stupid, but I can't figure out anything else. I thought Chad was only going to have 2 horses in here, based on the probables that came out a couple weeks ago. Now he's got 4. So this is just a pain in the ass race.
I'll give out what I'm doing here. I'm going to play this race the exact same way the Manhattan turned out last year. I'm going to take the horse I think is the best in the race. That's Highland Chief. I'm going to put him on top. I'm going to take L'Imperador and say that he's going to be this year's tribute amount. He's going to hit the board at, or he's going to run second at some pretty decent price. And then I'm going to throw Gufo in there because he'll be coming late, like he always is, but not getting there in time. Maybe a little bit of Rosarioing on the side. But I prefer him at 1.5 miles, and I'd feel better about second in here if this was 1.5 miles, but it's not. It's 1.25 miles. I will also say I don't like the 3 Tokyo Gold either, but he is going to float a lot. Show wager on him, especially if something crazy happens in this race, might not be the worst thing because he did run second in the Belmont Derby. Now, I will point out, he finished in front of some really bad turf 3-year-olds. That field was awful, and him and Bolshoi Ballet were exposed in the Saratoga and the Jockey Club Derby in their 2 subsequent starts in New York turf triple races. So they weren't good horses. Price will be there on Tokyo Gold. He has grade 1 over the surface before. Christian Demuro is in to ride from France, so certainly something to note about him. That's not to say that he's going to run a big race or anything like that, but if he's 30-1 or a mega long shot, maybe just a saver dollar show wager just in case he hits the board. But the big play is I'm going 8-1-2 in this race.
I think that's a very smart strategy, Jack. Use the horse you think is best in Highland Chief. Use the speed in L'Imperador. I think absolutely L'Imperador gets the lead because Tribovan has rated before. So has L'Imperador, but L'Imperador, the strategy last time worked out so well. I don't know how you don't do it again. You have the inside post. That's another thing. That horse should go. So it's a wild Manhattan, and it's certainly the most fascinating race on the card. I'm sure we took more time on this race than any other race. Okay, the 11th race is the Belmont Stakes, and we made a video on the Belmont Stakes, me, Jack, and 3 other guests. And Jack made a video with Jay Privman on his channel. He mentioned, you guys did stuff on the podcast, him and Eric. So we've talked this race to death. I'll just say my numbers. I'm going 6, 1, 4, and 3. Now, quickly, one shot I did want to give out. A lot of people are talking about Creative Minister, and I said that he couldn't win. I think out of the 8, he has the 5th best chance to win, and that's it. I don't think the other 3 can win, besides the horses I mentioned and Creative Minister, just in a complete sense. Because he's improving at the right time, but I think he's doing it a little too fast. So that's why I left him out of the top 4. I just wanted to clear that up. I do not disrespect Creative Minister. I just don't know if... I want to see it again. I know I said in Preakness I want to see it. Well, now I want to see it again.
Yeah, I'm on the 2 Pletchers, Mo Donegal Nest, and then Creative Minister is my value play in here. I saw him working out this morning at Belmont Park. He looked pretty good. A friend of mine is a hot walker for McPeak, and he was with the horse this morning, and the horse looks good. And I mean, anyone who's connected to connections of a horse in a Triple Crown race, they're never going to say, oh, the horse looks bad. So obviously take that with, be that as it may. But he has, Andrew's absolutely right. He's improving at the right time. I thought he ran well in the Preakness. Maybe he's done a little bit too much up to this point, but again, we got to make money some way. And if the Pletcher Exacta hits, especially if it hits the long way and the filly makes history and all that fun stuff, then we might be in for slightly more money than we would have been otherwise. Again, this isn't going to pay anything super crazy, but just maybe a smidge little bit more than we would have had otherwise.
Right. But at the end of the day, we are both on Mo Donegal. And Mo Donegal is about the most confident horse I've had in a Triple Crown race in a long time. Definitely. Probably, I'm going to be honest, probably since I picked American Pharoah to win the Preakness. I think that's the last time I was that confident in a horse in a Triple Crown race. Picked him to win the Belmont too, but that was a little bit harder. Wound up being just as easy. Anyway, I digress. Let's talk about the 12th race. And this is probably, if you think my opinions so far have been stupid, they probably have been. And I'm probably trying to reach too much on a card that's going to be won by a bunch of favorites and stuff. Well, let's say I'm down $100 or more going into the Belmont. How am I going to fix this? Well, I'm going to try and fix it in the last two races. And in the 12th race, I've got two horses that are both going to be prices that I like in here. The first one is the first-time starter for Brad Cox, number 4, Just Like This, who I believe is the only first-time starter on the entire card. Have to play this horse. Brad Cox does well first time out. I get, as me and my dad call him, the little prick Manny Franco. Hopefully he doesn't screw this horse too much. And also, the race is a mile, which is much better for a firster than a sprint race. The other horse I like in here is Bill Mott's horse with Dylan Davis, who is about the rider I respect the most, who rides at Belmont. And that's nothing to see here. This horse's first race, there was nothing to see here. This horse was not intended to win this race. The jockey, Lescano, didn't ride him. That was a absolute workout. You see Bill Mott horses do this sometimes. He gets the surface switch to the turf. I would be very, very scared of this horse. This horse is my top pick. Bill Mott just had a horse named Precursory who ran very well in today's second race and was arguably best, doing something similar. Now, those were both dirt races. This is a surface switch. I don't care. I like Bill Mott second time. This price is going to be great. He's going to get a good, clean trip on the outside. Losing ground on the Widener isn't as big as on the inner. One thing I'll tell you for sure, I hate North Carolina. This horse has had so many chances and was bet down and so many times trained by Barclay Tagg. This horse wins, I absolutely lose. I cannot stand this horse. I would never bet him in a million years.
In this race, I'm going to go. I just noticed I'm picking Jose Ortiz again in one of these non-stakes races on the card, but I'm going to Floki's Flight for Rudy Rodriguez. A couple of second place finishes, both times going 7 furlongs, and I'm going to hope that it will. In both of those races, first of all, there was a leader that walked, so I'm going to hope that that doesn't happen again. And both times he lost. Well, most recently at Belmont, he lost by half a length. At Laurel, he lost by a length and a half. But once again, a couple leaders that were able to walk, which hopefully that doesn't happen in here. An extra half a furlong or an extra furlong could be somewhat beneficial for him. And again, just trying to do a little bit of value hunting here. I like the angle with him. And hopefully I'm not in a position where I'm down so much I have to play this race. But if everything blows up and Santine wins the Manhattan, then I might have to dip into the pocketbook for this race.
Okay, and with that, yeah, I'm always scared of Rudy too, just so you know. And that horse also gets a surface switch. And now, here we go. The long national nightmare is over. We have reached the 13th race, which is a 6 furlong allowance race on the inner turf course. And you know who I'm picking in here by just looking at the connections. And will I get Rosario'd again? I don't think so, because I think this horse is going to be relatively close, and that's where you need to be in inner turf sprints. And that horse is Shamalana Ding Dong, who comes off a win, I think is ready to step up, won that last race pretty easily up the fence. I'm pretty confident in this horse and should get a pretty good price. One horse I'm scared of is Fontana Freda. I almost said Front Run de Feta. I don't know why I did. But Fontana Freda is ridden by Saez, who's one of the few horse jockeys I don't consider bums around here. Bond is cold, but Bond pulls off these weird things in certain spots, and this horse is not that bad. So I definitely would consider the 6 a little bit. And then finally, out of anyone in this race to pay attention to, Active Congress ran really good first time out, and last time backed up at 7. Does get to cut back to 6 furlongs again, which will probably help him, and also gets the better speed favoring inner turf course. I think that these horses are not really primed for a race with this big of a purse. I feel like a lot of horses are stepping up. So in a scenario like this where there's a lot of uncertainty, I have to stick to the guy I know in Christoph, and I'll use the funky guy in Bond, and then the speedster in Active Congress. So those will be my 3 horses to use to try and get out in the nightcap.
Active Congress is my pick in this race for the exact reasons that Andrew laid out. Backed up when being stretched out to 7. Gets to go 6. She won going 6 furlongs on debut, and she did that on the outer turf, and she gets to go on the inner. So that's certainly another point in her favor. But again, I'm playing it on the angle of she gets the cut back after. It's not like they blew up the allowance race that she was in going 7 furlongs, but they could have gone a little bit. Fractions could have been a little bit better for her there. So we're going to play that and hope that she does improve on the cutback to 6, where she already has a win in that range.
Yeah, I think you definitely need to be scared of Active Congress. Do I feel good using this horse? No, because the horse is owned by Flying P Stable, and of course I don't like that. But otherwise, yeah, I definitely think dangerous. That's it. Wow, we did it. We got through all 13 races on the Belmont Stakes Day card. Should be a great day. I hope that once the Belmont ends, everybody leaves so we can enjoy these last 2 races in a little bit more subdued atmosphere, which usually happens on Belmont Stakes Day. So hopefully it happens again. And hopefully we make some money. I was just about to use a swear word, but I realized that it's not really necessary. Okay, Jack, anything else to say about this 13 race extravaganza?
It's going to be a good day of racing. I'm choosing to view this glass half full. I will be annoyed when if I walk out with anything more, it's probably going to be less than a Jackson. But maybe if I do hit that trifecta in the Manhattan, we'll be doing a little bit better. But I'm just going to enjoy a good day of racing. I'm going to be. Was given the opportunity to participate in this Belmont Stakes Festival with Hofstra Radio, so I really appreciated that opportunity. And I have a lot of reasons to view this Belmont glass half full, even though there are some negatives with it.
Yeah, if you want to find me, I'll be sitting up in the last row of Section 3AA where I usually sit for the Belmont Stakes. I'm about 15 seats away from where I usually am. I buy the cheapest reserve seats that you can get, which are $60. And that's before all the Ticketmaster fees. So, yeah, I'm already shelling out a pretty good deal of money to go, but been doing it the last few years, and you know what? It's been a good time. I saw a Triple Crown. I had one of the greatest races I ever saw when Spring Quality won right before that. So, it's a real fun time, and you get to see what, in my opinion, since I hate the Breeders' Cup, is the best day of racing all year long. So, I'm definitely excited to be back. It should be a fun time. We're wishing safe trips to everybody. We're wishing prosperity to as many people as who can get it. We can't say everybody because there will be more people who lose than who win. But to you out there, pay your bills first, and may the odds be ever in your favor. I'm going to have a video up next week, another episode of One Turn Route that's going to deal with some problems we have in the racing business, particularly when it comes to fans. So hopefully you might consider tuning into that. But until then, enjoy the Belmont Stakes and this awesome Belmont Stakes Racing Festival.